Hello and welcome to Stimming and Stilettos with Dr. Tasha. I am glad that you guys are here. We have yet another episode with yet another fabulous minority woman in STEM here to tell us her story. I am, as always, I am excited. I am here to learn, and I really am excited to have Tasha Henderson on the show today. So, hi, Tasha.
Hi, how are you?
I am well. How are you?
I am great. I am great. Blessed.
Good. I'm really first, I always like to thank my guests. So thank you for agreeing to be one of my guests. I cannot tell you how much it means to me.
I am excited. I am feel honored to be on here with Stimmen and Stilettos. So I am so excited. Thank you so much, Dr. Anderson.
You're welcome. Do you have your stilettos on?
Actually, I don't right now.
I bet. Since we are all at home. Um, yeah, I have
Yes,
my flip-flops on if I'm being totally transparent. So
I know. Me too.
okay, Tasha. So, as I said, the first question is always tell us your STEM story.
Okay, my STEM story started back, I believe, when I was pretty much 5 years old. I remember being outside and always in the backyard exploring, digging for worms, and just fascinated by nature and the things that nature had to offer. So I would be playing with garter snakes and uh, basically building all kind of dirt castles as I imagined different things in my head, and always had to be pulled from outside of just in science and just engrossed in it. So it's kind of started there as I moved through elementary school. I've always excelled pretty much in sciences, math and science. I was always drawn to the analytical part of things, the logical part of things. So moving into pretty much high school, I was involved in, it was programs centered around women in science. So one of them was women in science engineering. I pretty much got involved in those things in high school and knew that I wanted to definitely do something that was geared towards, at the time, of course, it wasn't STEM, but I knew it was something I wanted to do geared towards the engineering field. Um, so pretty much I kind of geared myself around those things, took the classes, made sure and tried to make sure that I got my grades together when it came to math and science. And I like English, but that wasn't a thing that was kind of really like pushing me forward. So going into college, I pretty much went to a school that was a technology school geared towards engineering, and majored in mechanical engineering, and studied that for 4 years, and then had internships and those things, those privileges of that. And I ended up getting my bachelor's in math and physics. Um, so yeah, so that's pretty much my STEM story when it came to academics. And then as I moved into the professional world, I ended up pretty much being a database administrator, going into computer analyst, system analyst work, and moved into the education field after years in the corporate arena. So, and now I'm pretty much a STEM manager in Chicago for one of the huge districts, and I am pursuing my PhD in educational technology.
Nice. Good. Wow. Wow. So you have a little bit of everything.
Yes, I love every field of STEM. I'm really, truly a STEM geek, as I call it, because I have pretty much worked in every area: science, math, engineering, and technology. So
So, okay, so I'm curious. So what happened in college that made you change from, well, because I'm biased. I'm a mechanical engineer. So
yeah,
what
yeah.
happened that or or if anything happened, that made you change from mechanical engineering to math and physics?
That's a very good question. Um, it was pretty much, I can say, I had a summer internship with a state department. I enjoyed the internship. It was in mechanical engineering. However, um, when I was in my fourth year in thermodynamics, at that point, I think it was thermodynamics 2 or 3, I had a professor. Yes, so you know thermodynamics.
I
Oh.
do. I do. Mhm.
So I had a professor at that time, and I thought I was well on my way with with mechanical engineering, because I had the internship and everything. And I had a professor that really discouraged me from going into mechanical engineering.
Wow.
And he's like, that was my second time taking the class because I didn't get the grade that I wanted. And he's like, you know what? Maybe this really is not for you.
Mm. Wow.
And not having, I was the first generation college student in my family, not having someone else there as that support in engineering or in the technical field that was there to, yep,
Mhm.
that was there pretty much to counsel me and like, no, you can do it. And many times I say, I really wish I would have went to HBCU, because it's, yeah, for other, just the support that I see that's received there. But yeah, so that kind of deterred me and steered me in a way of, I love physics anyway, and I really like math. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell.
Wow. Unfortunately, I wish I could say that this was a one-off, but it's not. There are so many points along the way that we, as Black women and girls, and minority women in general, get discouraged along the way by people who are there to support us, who
Yes.
are there to basically give us a hand up or hand out, or just support, just be there to say, hey, this is, and maybe he thought he was doing you a favor, um, but I really hate to hear that, but it's all too familiar, unfortunately.
Yes, it definitely is.
And then so from there, so how? Tell me what a database analyst does. Only, I mean, I think I know, but I'm pretty sure that I have some audience members who are going to be like, what does that person do?
Okay. So a database administrator, I was a database administrator for Oracle. So Oracle is pretty much a huge, pretty like Microsoft. Oracle is a database application software that's in the background. And of course, data is any type of data information that's stored. So a database administrator is a person who administers or protects, oversees, backup, recovery of any data that a company may have. So I was a database administrator for one of Chicago's trading platforms. We have Mercantile Exchange, we have Chicago Board of Trade, which is one of the ones I work for. And we pretty much oversaw and maintained, backed up the data that you see on the stock market. So all the ticks and all the pricing and all the shares and stocks and all that information that you see going across in a pic, you see going across the screen and of shares and the stock market, Dow Jones and those things. Well, that's data, and that data has to be stored. So a database administrator, it was 6 of us over the whole exchange. We pretty much were the ones who were the gatekeepers with the data. And that's what a database administrator, it's a very lucrative job or occupation. It's in a computer science field, and uh, it's just real rewarding. It's just a high availability of data. So we made sure that it was backed up, that it would be recovered, made sure that it was different databases, even with the membership data. So anything that's going on, everything has data and it has to be protected. Data,
Wow.
data security, data, cyber security, those things are all wrapped up in securing data.
Well, I mean, I think I'm really glad that we're talking about this, because I know that data science is really huge right now, big data, and people still are confused as to what it is, because it's sort of like you want to, everybody talks about it, like everybody, oh, so, oh, they're your data, how to protect your data online, and there's people are using your data for blah blah blah, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it's like, well, what is it exactly? Like, because I guess because it's not something we can pick up anymore, and you
Exactly.
have files, and it's like, this is my data, right? Um,
Exactly.
so you can't see it, so it sort of becomes this nebulous thing that's sort of out there, and you don't know, you can't put your hands on
Right. Right. It's in the cloud.
it. Yeah,
Exactly.
it's in the cloud. Yes. And so,
Right.
but big data is really a huge thing. There are actually more. There are more opportunities for our kids than ever before in this industry. We just need, it's another STEM area where
It is.
there's a shortage of people. Uh,
Definitely, especially for minorities. I would encourage, and I encourage my students all the time to look at those fields of computer science, not just about coding, but the fields of, big data, data analysis, um, things of storing the data conglomerate of different areas in the area when it comes to STEM. And I think a lot of times that, especially in the minority community, it's like, oh, sometimes it's too hard, or no, I don't want to, it takes a lot of this or a lot of that. But many of the fields, you can go to a 2-year college, you
right.
know, and you can get a certificate in different areas of computer science, computer hardware and different things like that. The community colleges are offering a lot of things in that area, and you can go into database administration. Many companies are sponsoring and financially paying for you to get certified in A++ certifications and CompTIA, different areas. So
So why do
the
you,
sky's
um, and this is again pure speculation on our part, but why do you suppose it's sort of still, mm, why do you think STEM is still not as big as it could be in our communities?
That's an excellent question. Um, I particularly grew up in the urban area, a low income area, actually, one of the lowest income areas in Chicago. And of course, I didn't know anything about areas of STEM, and I didn't know anything about database or um, computer, different areas of that sort.
Mm-hmm.
But in our community, there is a lack of information getting disseminated to us. And I encourage pretty much even my students to look at fields that are career and technical education fields, which is CTE. Those areas are areas that we can take advantage of just from a community college level.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't have to be, oh, I have to go to a 4-year college, but it can be introducing yourself to those things, um, and being open to that. So the information is there with what's there for STEM. It's just that it somehow it's not being readily brought to our communities. But I think a community college is a good segue to open up the knowledge of learning what is there for us. And
So
it's
I love this conversation, because I think you're right. Not just because I think you're right, but I really do feel like our community colleges, our technical colleges are really good, solid, sound places for our students, for people who look like us, whether you are a male or a female, to go get a certificate, get your foot in the door, explore, see if this is the thing that you want to do. Some of these certificates take a month, 2 months,
Yes.
3 months. You can invest 3 months of your time to see if get this certification, networking certification, C++, whatever it is, get this
Yes.
certification, go there, see if this is a thing you want to do. If it's not, okay, well, you still have options. You are still not, it's not too late. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And it doesn't matter what age you are.
Right. I think sometimes our kids believe like you only have a certain time frame to do it and you got to do it when you're young. And I'm like, I used to work at a community college. And I mean, my oldest student was 76 years old
Wow.
and she was in there learning CAD. Like she was right. She was learning CAD because she had had a business. Her husband had had a business and he passed away and she didn't want to give it up. So she had learned some things from him, but there were pieces of the business that she was like, I just don't know that. And I'm losing my
Excellent.
business because I don't know that. So she came back to school and it was the funniest of sights, but not like, haha funny. It was just so touching, kind of like, aw, because her best friend in the class was this 18-year-old student. Um,
Wow.
and she actually hired him once they both graduated
Look at that. Wow.
to work for her in her company, because by that time her company had started to flourish and she understood. She was like, okay, by this time I'm 78. I'm not going to keep doing this, but I've got this young man here, um, who shows promise, and I can take him under my wing. And the story is that this was a older white lady, and this was a young black man, that she took under her wing, and they are still, well, she's still alive, but they are still going strong in business
Wow.
together. She has made him a partner, and so right, so these things can happen, but that wouldn't have happened I don't know if it would have happened in a 4-year school, but I doubt it. Because
Wow.
it's like she was like, I'm there because of the opportunity that a community college offered her. Because of course
Exactly.
Georgia, she could take courses for free, I'll say. So she could come back, because I think it's over, if you retirement age, you can go to
Yeah.
school for free.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so she was taking full advantage. She's like, I want to learn this thing. And she did. And those are the examples that I think that our kids need to see, that it's not a matter of age or time. It's about willingness
Yes.
and taking advantage of opportunities as they are presented to you, and do a thing. I mean, the 18-year-old, he had gotten accepted to Georgia Southern, which is one of the universities here. And he was like,
Wow.
I just can't afford to go, you know? So he came to community college for 2 years and then transferred in. And I was
See,
like, that's how you do that.
exactly. I have my mom. She went back to school when we were in high school. She went back to community college, and she was 48. And she finished. Only had a high school diploma, and she decided that, okay, my girls are about to go to college, so I want to at least have some type of college degree. And so it's never too late. And that's such a gem. The community college is such a gem in our communities, in our urban communities, that can open up, like as you said, Dr. Ennis, a wealth of opportunity. That's an awesome story.
Yeah, anyway, every time I think about the two of them, I just get so tickled, because I'm like, they're the story. They are what you want to see happen when you're thinking about the I don't know, the joys of a college experience. That's one that, like, neither one of them are ever going to forget. So
Exactly.
um okay,
Wow.
so now tell me, as a STEM manager, so what's that about, and what's your, I guess, give me a day in a life.
Okay. It's a dream job. Ugh. It's like a passion because I get to interact with the young people, which I love. I love, love, love my young people. I mean, they have so much fire and so much tenacity and passion for whatever they do. So I get to pretty much I'm pretty much support a partnership between the high school and college, the community college in our area. So we have a partnership and we are building our dual enrollment, dual credit at our high school, which is huge, that I didn't take advantage of when I was in high school. And I don't even think they had it actually. And that is something that I get to pretty much support our students in, to give them that opportunity and show them, and even our parents, that they can save thousands of dollars by students being able to take advantage of dual enrollment, dual credit, and earn, at the most 18 credit hours before they go into college. So, and I also, the other part is of my job is pretty much establishing STEM clubs in the high schools, or establishing, actually we're working on writing grants. I was awarded a grant with one of the huge universities here to start a STEM club with nanotechnology and electrical engineering to expose the students. And I just finished that training up last week. So, and then also starting a robotics club at the high school. So that's my day. And I know I'm kind of like all fidgety because I get so excited.
I promise you, I'm super excited for you. This does seem like a dream job. I mean, you get to impact students on several different levels.
Yes.
Which I think, any person with a heart for students, any educator, that's what we live for.
Yes.
And you're doing it in an area, I mean, that is your background, and because you know the stories, so you could probably give them that personalized touch on like why this is important, why it's important to see you sitting in these seats doing this thing, going to these classes. It's important that they see us in these roles, and it's not just,
yes.
It's just not like service. It's like, no, she's the real deal. She knows what she's talking about. She's lived it. She has stories to tell, and she can inform you, from a place that like, I have the knowledge, but I have the knowledge,
Exactly. And it's so fortunate that I am in the area that I grew up in.
Love.
So when I look at my students, I look at me.
Yeah.
Or any young person. It doesn't have to be my students. But when I look at these beautiful chocolate and caramel faces, I'm like looking at Tasha.
Yeah.
Because I was there on the other side of that desk. Like, how do I remember being so afraid when the college called me and said, okay, when I was 18 and graduated, and it was the summer, and I was just talking to one of my college buddies about this. It was, and they called and said, okay, they told my mom she needs to pack up her things. She has to be a part of the engineering bridge program. So the bridge program was the program that was the summer before you started your freshman year.
Mm-hmm.
I was from the, low income urban little area, and
right.
So
like, what are you saying?
Exactly. I'm like, wait a minute. All I know is where I'm at, and listening to MC Light and One and and LL Cool J and Tribe Called Quest, and that was my life. Big earrings, big braid, So going to a college campus, like what? So
I can imagine the culture shock of it, because I can imagine, because I know. Even though, so I went to Georgia Tech. I started at Georgia Tech, ended at Southern Tech, which is just up the road, and it's now Kennesaw State, one of the big universities, the big three, we call them.
Okay.
Well, actually, there's actually four, but it's Georgia State, Georgia Tech, Kennesaw State, and the University of Georgia. Those are the big four here.
Okay.
But going down there for the summer and moving in after you've lived with your parents or your mother and your siblings, and then being in a room by yourself with, or at least for me, I was with a white girl who was like,
It's,
okay, she was not like, she was there. She was, my roommate was, I had a roommate for one day. Yeah. I had a roommate for one day. So I looked at her, she looked at me, and I was just like, well, I'm not
mm,
leaving.
exactly.
So she left. But that was literally my first time being away from home like that.
Exactly.
And it was, yeah, it was scary. It's like you have to grow up real fast.
Yep. But but we so glad we pushed through.
Man, I am. I always tell those stories, but at the time, I think they may have been traumatic. I don't know that I remember it that way. It was literally like, okay, so um one of us, I got really, I was real clear on that I was staying. When her mother came in, she kind of looked at me, and they
Mm.
both sort of did the, oh, so I was like, well, y'all are free to leave. That'll mean more space for me.
Exactly.
I was not going to play that game. I wasn't even, I could have been
That's
a friend,
great.
but it was just like, hey, if they have enough room for you and me, and they're not putting somebody else in my space,
That's right.
I shared, because I'm a twin, so I shared a room with someone
Oh,
my whole life. So having a room by myself was like, okay, this is what this is. All right.
like this is mine.
It was a new experience.
Um, exactly.
But I love that you wake up every day and you get to walk into your purpose like this. It's just, you don't
Mm.
necessarily get to see it every day, and it looks good on you.
Oh, thank you. You too.
Thank um okay, so I do have a maybe one or two more questions. So if you who would you say were or are some mentors that you have in your life?
Hmm. Well, definitely, I would say growing up, it was my grandmother. Um, my grandmother's, my family is from Louisiana, New Orleans. And so her moving up here as pretty much our first generation, she was one that saved her money and moved here, single mom, and purchased the building. Um, and she was a trailblazer. She would always tell me, I clean the white people floors so you would not have to.
Mm,
So make sure you get your college, not high school. Make sure you get your college education. And she would take me to the bank as a little girl and show me what CDs were and show me how to invest your money and how to get life insurance. So she definitely was one that gave me an early confidence as a mentor that she was a surgical nurse. Um, she had earned her education and was at one of the big hospitals here. So she was definitely my mentor growing up, and she still is, and God rest her soul.
mm.
Um, but I can say that's one of my huge mentors is was my grandmother and still is because I'm still walking in things that she showed me to do.
I I so love that. Um, I often think of my grandmother who was a maid in some white people's houses um, in
Hmm.
South Carolina, and who had an eighth grade education.
Wow.
Wanted to be a teacher when she grew up, but wasn't able to. She bore 13 kids, and
Wow.
so she did that until my grandfather died, when she had to get a job, and she had an eighth grade education. So she
Amazing.
was a maid in one of the houses down off the Battery in Charleston, South Carolina. People in Charleston will know
Um,
where that is. So, um, and we having to spend summers with her, which were some of the joys of my life at the time. When I think back on them now, I'm like, I learned so much during those summers.
yes.
just having conversation, just being allowed to be in spaces, and listen to my uncles and my aunts have talk about their upbringing and the way things were, and how far we had come. And like my grandmother's house had 6 bedrooms in it. And at one
Wow.
point there was no bathroom. There was an outhouse and they had added on a bathroom. They
Amazing.
My mother, who was the youngest, my mother is the youngest. So there are stories that she has about like taking the trip to the outhouse to use the bathroom and those things. So I
Wow.
um so get that and admire how hard she worked
Yes.
with 13 kids. So um man, I mean you can't take anything from them because they worked so hard for just the little bit that they got.
It I mean, it's just amazing. I mean, they are giants. I mean, our ancestors, I'm huge into, I do ancestry work in the summer, and that's one of my hobbies. I love it. I was able to connect my mom to her family that she had never met before. So my African ancestry and any one of us, our ancestry is who we are. We have to know who we are in order to know where we're going. So what my grandmother put in me, it's priceless. And we, as you said, we just have to cherish it. I would get real frustrated about doing my math and doing the problems and things. And I remember one day she's like, "You can do this." She got on the floor and she said, do you want to see what I had to go through? And she got on the floor. She said, I would have to take a nickel, and she took a nickel, and I would have to go on the white people's floor who I clean, and I would have to get the gum up that would get stuck on the floor. And she's like, this is what I did for you to be able to do what you're doing. I mean, and I was in grammar school when she was telling me this.
Wow.
So we really have to appreciate and treasure, as you said.
Yeah, yeah, I
They're giants. They are giants.
yeah, I don't have, I mean, there's not much that you could say that, I mean, they did what they had to do and they are so resilient in ways that I don't know if we are, because they had to be.
Yeah.
Um, and so I'm immensely proud of my grandmother and I know you are of yours. Um,
Yes, we are.
one last question. Well, so tell us. So here's what I asked all my guests again. So what's happening right now that you want my audience to know about, that maybe they can take advantage of, especially if they're in Chicago or beyond, um,
Hmm.
and where can they find you if they want to look you up?
Well, I'm on Twitter. T Scott Hand is my handle. Things that are going on now. I'm currently pursuing my PhD. I plan to be on a podcast that I've done before in the past, and it's another one. It's Quizitory, and it's going to be broadcast sometime this fall. And I have narrated 2 stories on Lou Rawls and Muhammad Ali. So look for that. And it should be broadcast. Last year I did it, and they had, I believe it was Big Boy who kind
Oh,
of introduced me, yeah, in California. Yeah, so that's coming up again on a different podcast, which is Quizitory. So it's a huge thing that really researches and things of our ancestry and our history giants and things of that.
nice. I love that. I love that. Okay, so give us your Twitter handle again so people can look you up.
It's Yes, it's T Scott Hand, HEND. So
Awesome. And then
yep,
what's the name of the podcast again?
it's Quiztory, Quiztory.
Awesome. So listeners, you guys go and listen to that podcast right after you listen to mine, and then go and look up Tasha and see what else she's into and up to. All right. So our last question of the day is, if you could go back and talk to your younger self, what would you tell her and why?
I would tell my younger self, and I thought about this many times, that you are enough and you have earned a seat at any table,
Yes.
any table, not just an African American table, not just a Caucasian table. You have earned a seat at any table. And why would I tell myself this? And I kind of shared it a little bit earlier. And as you know, of switching my major,
Yeah.
um, because it is important for us, especially us ladies, that we know who we are and whose we are. And I am firm, my faith is in God is really what gives me that courageous stance. And it is important for us not to, or try to, as much as we possibly can, squash the imposter syndrome.
Yes. It's real, and we must combat it and win.
Exactly. So we are enough.
We are enough. Ah, love, love, love. Well, again, I do want to thank you for being on the show today. I enjoyed this conversation more than you probably know.
I
Uh,
did too.
oh, great! I'm really great. So, um, what do I want to say? Oh, again, thank you. And to
Thank
my
you.
audience, oh, you're so welcome. And to my audience, you guys, I'm always out here trying to find the best guests for the show. People who have a compelling story, people who want to tell their story. And I hope that you guys enjoyed the episode as much as we did.
Yes. Yes.
But
Thoroughly. I want to do it again. No.
I mean, um, but as always, I really want you guys to be safe. And I hope that you guys are being careful, wear a mask,
Please.
and take care of yourself. And until we can meet each other again, yeah, you guys, until we meet again. So see you next time.